Step into the incense and whiskey sanctuary with mindfulness enthusiasts and verified whiskey lovers, Mecca and Ashley, as they discuss all the random topics they love, from mindfulness to memes. This is Ashley.
And this is Mecca.
Welcome to the incense and whiskey sanctuary. Sanctuary.
Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Mecca.
How's your summer, almost summer going?
I guess it is almost summer, right? Can we officially
Yeah.
call it summer yet? It's
I mean,
like 90 degrees.
it's May, but it's really warm
It's
in
a warm May
Chicago.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm gonna go ahead and call it then. Yeah, you know how you're always scared to call it too soon in Chicago because right when you think it's summer, then we get a snowstorm out of nowhere.
Right. I mean, it's not going to be this warm next week from what I hear, but
Right. So I'm gonna call it a flash of summer for a moment. That's what we'll do. How about that?
hmm,
You know what happens in the summer?
what?
People go out into the streets and they go to the rooftops in Chicago and they have cocktails and such. And so I thought it would be really fun if we did a cocktail and a mocktail to kick off the summer. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So,
Especially since
you,
people are actually going to be going out now.
yeah, that's true. While we can, right? Because you never know what's going to happen come the fall in the age of the pandemic. But for all my people out there drinking alcohol, I have for you a ginger pear bourbon martini. How's that sound?
That sounds good.
Okay, so for this one, you need 4 ounces of your bourbon of choice, 4 ounces of pear nectar. And what I usually do for this is buy a jar of pears um, from like the grocery store, and I use the juice that's in that jar. 2 ounces of pear ginger simple syrup, which is essentially going to be a mix of that pear juice from the jar and sugar water. 1 ounce of freshly squeezed lemon juice and a slice of pear, a sprig of rosemary for garnish if you want to be fancy. What do you
It,
think?
that sounds good. I mean, when's the last
Um,
time you had that cocktail?
when's the last time I had it? Actually, I haven't had this particular cocktail. I've done something like this. I've done all the pear elements, so the pear nectar, and the ginger simple syrup mixed with champagne or prosecco, which is really nice if you want to do that instead of doing a bourbon. And that's a really nice brunch type drink. I would highly recommend that. But I will plan on making the ginger pear bourbon martini this weekend, hopefully.
Oh, that
I
sounds
gotta get my bourbon in.
And that's like a cool way to still incorporate bourbon in the warmer months, right?
Yeah, because we talk a lot about people who don't necessarily feel comfortable drinking bourbon, or they think you can only drink it straight or with like, Coke or some kind of something mixed in with it. But this is a nice way to turn it into a cocktail situation. But I have an alternative recipe for people who are not drinking. I don't know. How do you feel about mocktails, Mecca?
I'm all for them.
All for them.
Yeah, they
Okay.
can easily be turned into cocktails, or if you don't feel like you're going to be drinking and you want to like keep it light, then it's always a nice alternative.
Okay. So this mocktail recipe is like if you were making a punch bowl or like a for a group setting rather. So you would have to pare this down if you're making it just for yourself. But you'd want to put a half a cup of sugar. I'd recommend brown sugar in this recipe. 1/2 of a watermelon peeled and chopped up, 2 limes that are sliced, 2 cups of chilled soda water, a third of a cup of lime juice, one small bunch of mint leaves that you take the sprigs off of, a
Hmm.
tablespoon of additional sugar, it doesn't have to be the brown, and a teaspoon of the grated lime, ice cubes, and mix it up. And you have a nice pitcher of a mocktail to serve to your group.
When's like the best time to, is it always good to have like a mocktail and a cocktail or?
I think that's probably a good rule of thumb because I think it's great not to assume that everyone's going to drink alcohol in every situation. And sometimes people are just looking for something other than water or soda that's refreshing. So I think it's a really good idea to have a mocktail on hand, to be honest, or at least the option.
The option. And does it always have to be like sometimes I feel like mocktails are like over the top with so many ingredients. Like do you feel like
Yeah. I think that that's probably true because people are trying to, so the concept of the cocktails, right? It's not like a mixed drink where I pour, like I was saying earlier, a bourbon and a Coke, right? A cocktail is a mixture of ingredients typically to tease out different flavors. And so I think, yeah, you probably see that a lot with mocktails. Maybe there's a little bit of overcompensation happening. But I don't necessarily think you have to do it every time that you're making a mocktail. So I hope that you all pull out your glasses, pull out your ice cubes, and have yourself a little drink, whether it's alcoholic or not. We're gonna call it the summertime cocktails and mocktails.
Thank you, Ashley.
We had questions and we went to find the answers. Welcome to the quick-witted expert. Mecca, I have questions.
Okay.
I'm hoping you have some answers. I know very little about tarot cards. And so I was hoping you could tell me just the high level, what are tarot cards? What are they used for? Let's start with that. Can you help me?
So I'm not an expert, but I can give you some very like straightforward facts about tarot cards. Um, Tarot cards is kind of like a divination, like a tool that's used to help you, answer questions. So, as opposed to you maybe going to a friend or someone outside of yourself to ask, like, what do you think about this? Or, maybe you have a question about your career or your love life or your family life. Tarot cards is a tool that can be used to help guide you into the answer that you may be looking for. So that's what it's used for. It's kind of like it may give you a very loose guideline on past, present, and future, I would say. And yeah.
So I've heard of people going to see tarot card readers, but can you give me some ideas on could you learn or train yourself to read your own tarot cards?
Absolutely. Yeah, you absolutely can. I mean, most people go to see a tarot card reader because that person is very versed in all of the cards, right? So you have tarot cards are kind of like based off of some playing cards. So you have all of these different like symbols and symbols, and they all represent various parts of your life or actions. So tarot card readers usually have that insight. So they already have that like legwork done, right? And they probably have their own insight. If they are intuitive, they can kind of give like a mini reading with it as well. But you can also learn your own, you can learn tarot cards all on your own. There's so many books and classes and people out there that actually teach you how to read your own tarot cards. um, you know and you feel a little bit more empowered when you probably read them yourself. And it can kind of give you a little guidance. Sometimes you can like, oh, I want to see, I'm thinking about going on this trip next week, but I'm really, confused about whatever. Maybe it's the person you're going with, or maybe it's the destination. And you want to pull out a tarot card and give yourself like an answer or some type of guided answer. And sometimes you may or may not actually feel like you've gotten an answer. So sometimes you may seek people outside of yourself, but you totally can read your own tarot cards, do it for your friends or whatever. So yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, they've been around since like the 1400s actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I
and
think I knew that.
I thought they were originally originated like in Egypt, but I've been reading like they were originated in Italy. Like as far back as like 1466. And then there was like this Italian, this one guy that was like, okay, I want to rewrite these, and I'm gonna use the Book of Thor, which is like this Egyptian like god. So he
Oh.
used his writings to create his own deck and a guidebook, and
Mhm.
then it was updated again, like in 1909, with Rider Waite, which is a very popular tarot card deck, and it's still used today by a lot of people. Now, but since then, you have a variety of people that have, you know, kept start making their own tarot cards and creating their own meanings with the tarot cards. So using the same like pictures and symbols, but creating their own meanings around them as well. So I mean, it's come a long way. You have some that are specifically to like various nationalities,
Mhm.
animals. They're all, some of them can be completely themed. So they've come a long way
Mhm.
um, since the 1400s.
Do you have a preference, or do you do this for yourself or have a deck yourself? Do you have a preference on what type of deck you use?
I do have I have several decks actually.
Oh.
Um, I have so the deck that I use is based off the Rider Waite. It's not Rider Waite, but it's based off of it. I think it's called Modern Witch. And Modern Witch just means like modern intuitive. Someone
Okay.
that is, they are taking their own like powers into their own hands. So that one is based off the traditional symbols, but then the illustrations are geared towards like people of color, um, and and the illustration is beautiful. Then there's also um, what else do I have? Oh, I just got a new one. I'll have to tell you about it. But I got a new one that's really cool. And this particular lady, she's an illustrator and she also is an intuitive. So she kind of like dreamed up all of these symbols and these
Oh,
artistries. Like she just kind of like, I mean, I think it took her a couple of years to create this. So she just kind of like dreamed up all of her imagery that she put on there.
that's really cool, actually, and I wouldn't even think about having different types. I mean, so that's really cool to know the illustrations can vary, and that you could go to different types of tarot card decks.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that. And if tarot cards is one of those things like, oh, it takes too much to learn, that's where you can kind of go into oracle cards. Oracle cards are like specific messages and affirmations, but it kind of like serve the same purpose. You know, I really like this guy and I'm not really sure where this relationship going. So then you may get a tarot card that says, he loves me. I'm making that up. But whatever the deck is you're using, sometimes you're going through the deck, you're giving into your energy, and it may give you a message within that spread. So
Yeah,
oracle cards are, you don't have there's no learning curve. It may come with like a
yeah,
guiding book to like kind of like a compass, right? Like I'm not saying that's not the right word. A legend. It gives you a guide to each of the illustrations that are on there and the meanings, but of course you always want to kind of look at a card and intuitively think about what that meaning is for you, and then kind of read what the meaning is from that author.
oh, okay, got it. So let's say I have a deck of cards and I have a question. So does it look like I pose my question and I pull a card and see like what the meaning of that card is and whether and kind of reflect on the applicability of that meaning to my question? Is that a fair summary?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly. Like
okay.
it could be a question like, what's the root cause of, my relationship, or what's the current energy around my job situation. You pull
Oh,
this card and you look at it and see what it means to you first,
yeah,
and then you may already you look at it and be like, oh my god, it means X, Y, and Z, and then you go to like maybe the guidebook and read what the author's
yeah,
definition is for that card.
got it.
So I mean, it's really cool. I mean, of course, nothing is like safe failed, but it's a really cool way of, you know, kind of creating your own empowerment of like, I have a question for the universe. I have a question for
Yeah,
spirit. Let me
yeah,
ask this question.
got it. That's really cool, actually. Um, what do I need to know? as someone who knows nothing about tarot cards other than what we talked about here, is there anything else that you think I should know?
I think that if if you're drawn to wanting to get your own deck of tarot cards, you know, find some, once you start looking, start finding some illustrations that actually resonate with you.
Okay.
And then maybe there's a favorite, maybe there's a favorite illustrator or someone you started following that created their own tarot cards. I would go that route, but I would say find something that's completely simple. You understand the actual pictures, and then just kind of like sit with it and make sure it resonates with you. But if you don't want to go tarot cards, I would always say just do oracle cards. Oracle cards, there's no like learning curve behind it. And again, I would go with what resonates with you when you're visually looking at it because they're all visually pleasing.
Right.
So,
That's really cool to think about. Well, I appreciate you breaking it down because I definitely had no clue. And now I'm interested in exploring tarot cards a little bit more.
Ashley explores tarot cards.
I know that might be a follow up discussion. We'll see.
Catch us next time on Incense and Whiskey.
In the meantime, take a breath, have a sip,